Mike Tyson has gone down in history as being one of the greatest heavyweights of all time. During his prime, he was labelled a knockout artist. He also held many titles. For example, one being that he became the youngest heavyweight boxing champion of the world, and he did this in 1986 at the young age of 20. He was introduced to boxing trainer Cus D'Amato, where he would begin to mould Mike into one of the greatest fighters of all time. Since stopping fighting though, Mike has changed his outlook on life. The once aggressive man now has a much more calm demeanour, explaining that he didn't like who he was in the ring, and that certain parts of his life actually scared him. This caused him to make a drastic change. A few days back he featured on the Joe Rogan podcast, one of the most watched podcasts in the world. Joe has made it obvious he's interested in topics such as Bigfoot, UFOs, secret government programs, and trying to understand human history. It was during this show that an interesting conversation started between Joe and Mike. He asked the former heavyweight champ, "What do you think about aliens?" Tyson then said the following: "Listen, there's more stars in space than there are grains of sand in the desert. Can you imagine that? I think we are aliens. I think we're descendants of aliens. If you can't explain, if you can only tell me about Adam and Eve, I'm going to go with aliens. If that's what you're hitting me with, Adam and Eve, I'm going with these alien guys." Joe then replies with the following: "There's a lot of people that believe we're the product of aliens. That aliens came down and did some experiments with lower hominids, and did some accelerated genetic experiments and created people." To which Tyson responded with the following: "Well, listen, when certain tribes of people, I'm not saying Caucasians, when they came to Africa, even before that, when people came to other people and the first time they saw them, they were aliens. Maybe they weren't aliens, but that's what they thought they were. They were just a tribe of people that encountered them." Although the idea of aliens coming to Earth and carrying out experiments sounds like it belongs in a movie, there are many people that believe this happened, and that perhaps an ancient civilization travelled to Earth and seeded it, allowing for life to flourish. It sounds far-fetched because we're not taught these theories, with mainstream scientists saying there's no proof this happened and so it can't be taught. It's interesting to note that over 95% of our prehistory has been lost, so it can be tough for historians and archaeologists to answer many of the questions that people have. UFOs certainly aren't a modern day thing. They've been depicted in old paintings and scriptures, with one of the oldest coming from the ancient Egyptian civilization. It's these encounters that's caused some to think that perhaps these crafts have been visiting our planet for years. There was even reports of unidentified flying objects in biblical times. Even today, with the skies filled with drones, helicopters and planes, UFOs are still a source of mystery. Imagine then the level of disbelief of seeing such objects before the actual invention of the aeroplane. Whilst we might think of the UFO as a 20th century phenomenon, the late 19th century saw many astounding reports that brought to those who witnessed them both wonder and fear in equal measures. Almost a decade before the Wright brothers' first flight, numerous sightings of strange cigar-shaped UFOs were spotted across the United States. Starting in 1896 to 1897, these mystery airships were bigger and faster than anything known at the time. The first sighting was reported in the winter of 1896. A light was seen slowly moving across the Sacramento night sky on November 17th, with otherworldly sounds being heard as it passed overhead. Another mysterious encounter happened on April 17th, 1897, when inhabitants in a rural American town saw a single alien spacecraft lose control over the skies of Texas. A young boy saw an airship trailing smoke as it headed north towards the town of Aurora, slowing and speeding as it tried to regain control over its trajectory. It sailed over the public square, reaching the northern part of town where it clipped the edge of a windmill at speed, then veering into the path of the town's water tower where, upon contact, blew into a number of pieces, scattering debris over several acres of ground, and awakening many of the town's residents. The residents that awoke went to investigate the source of the early wake-up call. What they found would astound the townspeople. Having read about numerous mystery airships in national newspapers recently, including an abduction attempt, they wondered if this was something not only extraterrestrial, but also evil in nature. On locating the ship's sole occupant, although the pilot had passed away, they soon realized the humanoid was clearly not an inhabitant of this world. Furthermore, strange markings in the manner of hieroglyphic characters were seen on the internal control panel. Terrified of the unknown, the townspeople quickly buried the body in the nearby cemetery, and removing the wreckage in the hopes that the incident would disappear from the town's history. Allegedly, there's also been mysterious artifacts that have been left behind by people that detailed their encounters with beings that resemble extraterrestrials. One that's confused many scientists and researchers over the years is that of the lost Dropa stones. Discovered in 1962 by a man named Chu Wemming, the Dropa stones were described as being a series of 716 circular stone discs that were dated as far back as 12,000 years ago, predating the first human civilizations. The stones were inscribed with tiny hieroglyphic-like images that detailed a strange story of possible extraterrestrial origin. This story was allegedly translated to state that a strange species of being had descended from a cloud in the sky. After realizing they were unable to ascend back into the skies, they were then forced to begin to adapt and live on the planet. This story then detailed that, unaware of the nature of these strange beings and their intentions, the local Han Chinese began to hunt them down and eventually wipe them all out. According to the researcher Chu Wemming, the images seem similar to that of modern-day UFO sightings and flying saucers. Believing these stones to be evidence of the record of ancient extraterrestrial contact, in 1962 Chu Wemming published his findings to the archaeological community, only for it to be ridiculed and discredited, and caused Chu Wemming to go to Japan in a self-induced exile of shame. Further information surrounding the stones were described in the Soviet magazine known as Sputnik, that claimed a handful of these stones were sent from a museum to Moscow. Supposedly a doctor by the name of Vasilev Sayev describes an experiment in which the discs were placed on a special turntable, where they began to vibrate or hum in an unusual repeating rhythm, as they possessed an electric current passing through them. Since these experiments and findings, the stones have gone missing, only for them to have never surfaced again. This could very well mean that not only were the stones legitimate in their details and evidence of ancient extraterrestrial contact, but the effort was made by the Chinese and Russian government to cover up these strange artifacts and prevent them from ever being seen again. Many people in the ancient alien community speculate that perhaps these discs could have contained a massive amount of digital data and could be the smoking gun evidence of ancient extraterrestrial contact. So what do you make of the idea that an ancient civilization once travelled to our planet? And do you agree with what Mike said that aliens could be out there? Be sure to let us know your thoughts in the comment section below, and help us by growing this community while working to solve these unexplained mysteries. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.